Thanks for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum with the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
So your sale just ended up with procurement, right? Well, that doesn't mean the end of the deal or the end of profitability. A purchasing agent can be a daunting foe or a great ally. It all depends on how you handle them and how you help them get it right. Don't let that purchasing agent get you down. Instead, get empowered as Scott and I discuss the challenge of procurement and much more on episode 457 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
So we're studying the Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. We're on
Almost
chapter
done.
14. We got one more, chapter
Yep.
15, and then we're starting another book called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. The title of this chapter is How to Get and Keep That Winning Feeling.
Yeah.
And have you ever had that winning feeling, Bill, where you just everything's coming in alignment?
I guess I do. I guess most people have had those days or weeks or times where things are just going well. I'm a bit of a pessimist, so I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I grew up in an Eeyore family, so it's like, it's not going to last forever. And so you got to watch out for that.
Yeah, I've had a few rounds of golf where I broke 100, and I've only broken 100, I think, twice. And one time it was against my three brother-in-laws, and I've never played them again because I never wanted to give up the title of winning and breaking 100.
I break 100 quite often, but unfortunately, I'm just playing 9. So that's
right. Yeah.
People ask me if I play golf. I say I own clubs.
Yeah. You mean hunting? You mean you hunting?
Yeah, for balls.
Or people say you go hunting. I mean, you mean golf?
That's right. Well, I do go in the woods. A good golf game for me is I found more balls than I started with. So.
Right. That's good. All right.
Anyway, let's talk about the winning feeling.
Yeah. So the winning feeling, and I love the author uses a lot of examples, a lot of stories in this chapter about the winning feeling. And I want to share something that he wrote is that the winning feeling starts with setting goals. And I have to really ask, how many of us have goals that are written down? And we've all heard these SMART goals: strategic, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. One of the challenges with this, and I think I read this in a Harvard Business Review, now that everybody knows that I read the Harvard Business Review,
is the smart, Plato and stuff.
Right. Is that one of the challenges that we limit ourselves when we're settling for attainable and realistic. I read this in an article some years ago. So as we're setting SMART goals, instead of looking at attainable and realistic, I think we really need to look at setting a stretch goal and getting outside of our comfort zone. And when we're able to do that, I think that really supports that winning feeling is when we're learning something. Again, Strength Finders is helpful. I'm a learner, so if I'm ever in a slump, I always like to pick up a book and just start reading, and I feel better.
Well, as the pessimist in the group, I have to say that I think that's a very fine balance, because once you set a goal that you don't believe anymore, it's done. You will not even try the attempt. It will be so far outside that comfort zone that you won't do it. So he talks about gradualness, and I believe in that. I believe in setting small goals done frequently rather than this huge goal that I can't even see. And if I can break that big goal down into smaller things that I feel are attainable, then they together can become a large goal that maybe I didn't necessarily believe in 100%.
Yeah, well, it also gives you the confidence to achieve greater goals when you achieve smaller goals.
Absolutely.
When I started playing golf, at my first lesson, I was practicing 6-inch putts, and then it was 12-inch putts.
Right.
And then I worked from the hole to the tee box. And I had greater confidence of hitting the target, whatever that was. If I'm on the tee box, what's my target? Get in the fairway.
Right.
What's my target from the fairway? Hit the green. What's my target then? 2-putt. I'm on par. So I built that confidence by the
Listen, you're saying you barely break 100. You're not on par very often.
Well, no, I'm not. But I know where the target is.
I got 5 shots to get to the green and 4 to get in.
Right.
But I agree with you. When I practice before I'm going to play, so I like to get there early and not get rushed. And then I like to have a little time on the putting green. And just like you're saying, even though I've played before, I start with 6 to 12-inch putts, make a bunch of them, back off a little bit. I don't start with a 20-foot, 3 different rises and movements. I start with the easy ones and move back. When I'm going to go to the driving range, I start with my 9-iron. I don't start with my driver.
Right.
I start with
Good.
something I can hit fairly well and then move back until I'm more confident. So
Hmm.
I think that's really true in everything that we do. I really like that idea that you brought up, is to start small, attainable goals and build that confidence.
Yeah. So what is the most important thing is to set goals. I think the important thing is to write goals down. And here are two things that we can do right away is put together our productivity list, which are the activities that we are going to perform and complete and achieve that day.
Mm-hmm.
Get through that productivity list. Is it a to-do list? Well, sometimes it's a to-do list. A to-do list is focused on activities. A productivity list is focused on achieving a goal, doing the activities that support a goal. And when you want to look at the end of the day, you look at I achieved the steps and activities to support a goal. A shopping list. We've all done this before. We write down stuff that we need at the store. We leave the list at home. We go to the store. We end up visualizing the list. And boy, sometimes we get about 90 to 95% of it right. We might forget one thing. But when we write it
The
down,
whole
we have a
thing we went
greater
to the
chance.
store for usually.
Yeah, it's that one thing that motivated us to go to the store. So just start with those and then work on bigger goals. And then, what is the biggest goal? The biggest goal is maybe an annual income projection. It might be a 3 to 5 year plan. It might be an overall career, but just start with those small things and then work your way up. So it really builds confidence. Another
Well,
thing
I
is
think too,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
what I like about setting goals is, and this is the key to psycho-cybernetics, right? Is that by the mere setting of the goals, and as you say, writing them down and then reviewing them every day, all the things in my body and my mind start to work together for the achievement of those goals in an unconscious manner.
Mm-hmm.
I start to take, it's just like you're getting the 90% of your shopping list by envisioning it. We have to set those goals so that so our body and our mind start working towards something. If we don't set those goals, we go through our day kind of meandering without a real purpose, and it's a very frustrating day. Whereas if you have the goals, you're setting the things forward, you're doing the activities that lead to that goal attainment, then at the end of the day, you feel accomplishment.
Yeah. When I learned to play the trumpet, I slowed the tempo down. I played the notes, so I wanted to hit the note at the right tune, and I wanted to play at the right pace, but I slowed the tempo down of the music so that I could focus on each note. And then eventually, as I got better, I would increase the tempo so that I could, make sure that I was in tune and playing the note correctly. Some of the things that the author wrote about in the book, here's a quote: who had never experienced success early in their school life had no chance to develop the habit of success. And I think it's really important for us to be able to have small successes in order for us to build a habit of success so that we build the productivity and the confidence in doing that every single day in every activity that we take on.
Well, he talks a lot about replaying their success videos, right? When you have
Oh,
something challenging you have to do, look back on things that you've done before and say, "Well, I've done something similar to this. Even though I didn't do the same thing or in the same with the same people, I've done something similar, and so I can do it again." I've made phone calls before that have been productive. I've talked to people at a networking group and met good people. I've gone into appointments and I've had good success. So remember those things. And I do a lot of presentation training, and I always tell people, you've done something, you've gotten up in front of a group before, you've read
mm-hmm.
something, replay those. And one of the things that I do, I video all of their presentations because I want them to see their growth. And at the end, I want them to have something that they can actually watch and say, you know what, I've done this before. I know what to do. I can do this at my work or at my school or whatever I have to do. So presentation training really relies on those success videos.
Mm-hmm. Another thing the author talked about is failure. And here's a quote from the book: is we picture failure to ourselves, not vaguely or in general terms, but vividly and in great
Mm.
detail.
And
It's
and even
amazing.
more so than it was. Yep.
Yeah, we exaggerate it.
Yep.
And that's how we think of failure as vividly. Do we think of success vividly? Sometimes we really don't. And
Yeah.
sometimes we really don't have that visual outcome of success. Or maybe we don't have the confidence that we're going to achieve the goal. So then we don't set a goal, because then we're not going to disappoint ourselves because we never had a goal. And yeah, another thing that he talked about was the word worry. Suppose suppose this, and we use suppose and against us in worry And we can use suppose with us in wonder. So suppose this were to happen. Well, suppose this were to happen. Failure. We visualize it vividly. Suppose this were to happen. Success. And we need to dwell on really using the word suppose to support success. So here's what we need to remember is it's against us in worry and it's with us in wonder. I wonder what would happen. Suppose this were to happen. I wonder what would be next. I wonder what the outcome would be. I wonder what the impact would be. So use the word supposed to support success and wonder.
Well, one of the things I found as a coach is that quite often people, when they're trying something new, they think they do worse than they do, and they try to focus on the bad things. Oh, that was a bad phone call, or that was a bad appointment. And what I think we can do as coaches, and this is a very powerful thing, and this is where I don't think sales managers do as good a job as a coach from outside the organization, is to look at that and look for the positive things that went on in there and say, look, you really grew in these 2 or 3 areas. You were much better in these areas, and help them focus on those positives where they want to reject the positives and only focus on the negatives because they're unsure of themselves. So if you're having challenges and you have some things you want to overcome, really look at getting a coach, somebody who can help you look at that realistically and build on those small wins.
All right. One last thing that I want to contribute is use the line from Pavlov. And we've all heard about Pavlov's dogs ringing the bell and getting thirsty and hungry, is that one of his dying words, he was asked, what's the best advice you can ever give somebody? He says, do things with passion and gradualness. And I think that that's really important, is the gradualness. I think if you're going to buy a stock, you're going to want to buy a stock that's gradually increasing, because if it skyrockets, it's going to probably crash at the same time. If we're adopting any new habits or behaviors, consider gradual increases over time. And I think we're going to be able to have a better reinforced constructive result at the end.
Well, our next book is Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play by Mehan Khalsa. And so if you haven't picked that up yet, you'll want to play along. And Scott's read that before. I have not. Said it's a great book. So again, we're going to get back into the sales process.
This segment has been brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of Winning at Selling podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with the prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future.
So our topic for today is the challenge of procurement. And we have all found our sale getting dumped into procurement's lap, or all of a sudden we think we have a good sale process going, and it ends up, here comes the procurement person that's going to try and beat the heck out of us on price or try to commoditize, right? That's what procurement tends to do, isn't it, Scott?
Exactly.
Is to make our product a commodity. And what they try to tell us is, hey, look, you're no different than the other 20 people we could buy from. So let's just talk about price, right? So let's talk about, Scott, what's important to procurement. What is important to them? What are they judged on? Because I think that's the important thing. In order to work with them, we need to know what motivates them, just like for our customers, right?
Right.
So I think the number one thing that motivates them and that they get judged on is getting the lowest price.
That's one of their goals. And I also noticed that procurement also wants the longest pay terms too. So it's not
Okay.
15 days, it's not 30 days, it's 120 days.
Right, right.
And
Because
then
that's
in
part of
reality,
price. That's
yeah, you got
part
to
of
chase
price,
it
right?
down then to go get it.
Right. And terms are part of price. Terms are part
Right.
of the
Yeah,
negotiating on price and how many you have to take at one time and all those things
exactly.
are there. So those are all things that they're going to get into that nitty-gritty on you and kind of focus you away from what's important. But price is always easy, isn't it, Scott? Because it's a
Mm-hmm.
number we can work with. And if I'm going to get judged on it and they can save a penny or two here, I think that they want to do that because they're going to get the kudos for getting that lowest price. But the challenge that they have, because the second thing that's important to them is they need to get it right. And that is they don't want blowback from the person who's going to use this, who says, well, you saved us 2 pennies, but it cost us thousands of dollars on the other side of this because this is a piece of crap that we're working with, or these people can't get it to us on time, or they can't get enough of them to us on time. So they don't want blowback on what's happening with the deal. And then the third thing they're worried about is long-term relationships. Now, changing vendors is work, and they would rather not change vendors because if you've been set up as a new vendor, you know what a hassle it is. It's a hassle for them. Most people tend to be lazy, and so they don't want to change vendors, and so they'd rather not do it. So that's a motivator. And then the fourth motivator is having options. They want at least two trusted vendor for every key need, so they always have a backup plan. So sometimes we can get in there as the option. So the four motivators: price and all the things around it, like terms and delivery, getting it right so there's no blowback, long-term relationships because they don't like to change vendors, and having options, at least two trusted vendors for every need.
I've noticed that this is really applicable. I worked in the hotel food and beverage area, and I would order produce and I would order canned, goods. And,
Right.
and every time that we came in with, a different size of tomato, it screwed up all the recipes. If there was a different size of potato, it screwed up the recipes. If
Right.
we didn't get the number 10 cans and we got different other cans, it screwed up the recipe. So when changing vendors and when the same vendor gives you a different product, it's a different size, it screws everything up. Tremendous impact.
Yep.
I've noticed that, the availability and who's going to be storing it and warehousing it, and then how frequent the deliveries can be also has an impact on it. But the thing that I really think about when it comes to procurement is, what does it really cost the person who's making the decision to buy if things don't go right?
Right.
And it's an internal consequences versus whoever they're reporting to and the other people that are in the organization that have an expectation for procurement to deliver the products or services. And if they don't do it, then there's an internal consequence. So we really need to leverage that and use that when somebody's making a decision to hire us or to buy from us and not somebody else.
Absolutely. And what you're illustrating there is the power that procurement doesn't have. One of the things when I talk to salespeople and they're dealing with procurement, they think procurement has all the power. They think, well, because they can walk out on the deal or they can find somebody else to buy from, they have all the power. And they really don't, because they do have these things that you're talking about to worry about. That blowback is a big worry. If I save 2 pennies and I cost us, that the recipes are never good anymore, or people have to use a product that's substandard, or our product, we put it in there and it doesn't work, and now we're taking them back. Those are all big worries. So building that, what do they call it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are things you want to do to help procurement understand the value of something. So let's talk about some of the keys we need. We want to collaborate with procurement, right? We don't want to see them as the
Absolutely.
enemy. If you go into procurement with your fist balled up and you're in a stance of let's fight this out, you're giving them more power than they deserve. So what you want to do is try to develop a collaborative process with them to help them learn more, know more, so that they can buy the right product. And so the first key to that is to get them quality information. Procurement buys everything, so they don't know a lot about everything. They know a little about everything. And so it's going to be a lack of knowledge that is going to push them toward lower price. They know about price, but they don't know about the quality differences, or as you say, the tomato size differences, or we're going to make sure that we get this product to you when you need it, so you don't have your warehouse full of it. So there's things that you can do to get them good quality information. And I think that ties into the second one, and that's to show them how price isn't the only factor. And those are all the things that you were talking about.
Hmm.
What is it in your value proposition that's useful to them to allows for price differentiation? And I know we've talked a lot about value proposition.
Yeah, and price is based on context too. So if we talk about different options that are available, and we are a full-time player in a part-time game, they're a part-time game. We as salespeople are full-time players in the game of selling. They're a part-time player when
Right,
it comes to us.
right.
So we do know more than they do. And we need to qualify some of the selections that they have and the direction that they're going to be able to give them options. And when we give them options, then we're changing the context of price. And then price is tangible and easy because it's just $1 amount versus the costs and consequences of the intangible of not delivering it, not having it, having an effect on all of the other products that maybe manufacturing is
Mhm,
using, or
mhm.
in a hotel business, all of the recipes and food and events that they're serving too.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that you need to introduce them to these value added issues through questioning.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try and shove it down their throat. Well, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? Well, here's what we can do. Instead, ask them questions. Well, have you talked to the user? What's important to the user? What's important to you for delivery? What, and ask a lot of questions so that they bring into their mind a doubt that says, well, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe, and then when they start asking you questions, then you can show them those value proposition issues and how you do it differently than them. So you don't want to make them feel stupid in sharing with them those value propositions. You want to ask questions and allow them to come to that themselves. And that's where the real buyer will help you. Remember, the purchasing agent isn't the buyer because they're not the end user. They're just the payer. And so the people who use your product or service, they're the ones that have the real stake in either keeping you on the team or bringing you into the team. So use that power of the buyer. Make sure that they're on your side.
It's a very good point. There's a difference between a buyer and a payer, and the costs and consequences are throughout an organization. Only one person is at the head of making the decision, and that's the
Mhm.
purchasing agent.
And they're only responsible for price, and they get the price down and they all pat each other on the back and say, hey Larry, you did a great job, you got it really cheap, and then the guy who has to use it goes, what is this cheap piece of junk they got me?
Right, right.
And so be careful that that buyer is brought into the equation quickly and early in the process, or they're going to get in trouble. One of the things that procurement knows that's interesting is that if you feel cheated as a vendor, you may cut corners to recoup. And I've done some study on this, and there's been some proof of this. Walmart is known for really getting their vendors down in price. I've read a number of vendors that have said yes, and we've made a cheaper product. We've thinned out the steel. We've made the electronics not as good. We've got thinner wiring because we need to make some kind of a profit. So if you're really pushing too hard on the procurement's pushing too hard, they may not get what they thought they were going to get. And then if you're the incumbent, couple things. If you're the incumbent, if you're the vendor that are currently in, you want to help procurement feel the cost of changing vendors, because that we know that they're reluctant to change vendors. So again, bring doubt into their mind. What happens if you change vendors and it doesn't go well? Let's talk about how we can make our relationship better rather than looking for a new vendor.
And I always think we need to add value and not necessarily work on cutting the price. And we're in a position when we're the full-time player to be able to add value to the decision and not necessarily work on cutting the price.
Right.
That's not negotiating.
And we better understand what that value is, or we don't have much
Right.
of a relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So qualify, I'm kind of curious, why did you select that product? What process did you go through? What criteria are you looking for? What do you really want that product to do? Tell me a little bit more about that. I'm kind of
Mhm.
curious.
And ask those questions around delivery and around just in time and around whatever else you can bring to bear that says we're going to give you a product or service that's better, and it's going to save you money over here, even though we don't save you a penny on the price. And then the other thing is, if you're the new kid, kind of the other side of that, you want to help procurement overcome their reluctance to try something new. So, is there something you can do to help them try out your product, try out your service? I know that when I work with organizations, quite often I'll do needs assessments without charging them, so they can see how I'm going to work with people. And that helps me get an in that helps them feel more comfortable. So is there some way they can try your product out and see if it will work well in their system?
Yeah, yeah, great advice. In working with companies, I think there's a process in negotiation. The first step is to create value. The second step is to claim value. So when you're coming in and you're talking with somebody in procurement who, again, you're a full-time player, they're a part-time player, you know more than they do. So we really have to believe that. We need to qualify them as to why they're going in that direction. And they may be buying stuff that's 3 years old. And boy, you want to get rid of it because it's in your inventory, in your warehouse. And they don't know what the newest product is, so they don't even know what they're looking at. So, I mean, you could go down that road, or you could sell them something that's more current. That's the current market. It's going to be a little higher price, but it delivers more value. So work on always creating value when they work with you, and then claim the value that's created. And that's what you're going to know for.
Yeah, I think salespeople are really bad at that, is that claiming of value. They don't want to go in and say, have those questions that say, how is it working? And let's confirm the things that are going well and fix the things that aren't going well. Too often salespeople want to make that sale and walk away and go to the next deal. Maybe you have an internal salesperson that can do this, but you need to continue to have that conversation as new products are introduced. How's it going? How's it working out for you? Are we doing things right? Don't let those nagging challenges become a reason for changing vendors. Make sure that you're cutting those off and that you're getting better and better and better in that relationship with that new customer.
I think one thing that salespeople need to keep in mind when they're working with prospects is more prospects create less desperation on one individual prospect. We can think we're working on a whale here, and then all of a sudden that doesn't come out. And meanwhile, we haven't been diverse enough in our pipeline and getting other companies into our pipeline. You're going to be in a much stronger position when you have more prospects in your pipeline, more qualified prospects, even better, because you've had conversations with folks, and it's going to take less pressure off of an individual prospect so we don't come across as being more desperate. When you're negotiating with procurement, we need to be able to feel like we have some leverage and we don't need this sale. We want this sale. And that's all internally.
And we want that relationship. We want a long-term working relationship that we can both benefit from. And again, if you're going, as you say, hat in hand with this feeling that, if you please buy from us, you're always going to lose that negotiation.
They're going to work you down.
Yeah. And procurement is really good at that. I mean, if there's anything that they learn how to work with in negotiation is to make you feel less than secure in your product or service. And they're going to use that idea that we're going to walk away, we're going to change vendors to see how low you'll go on price. One of the things you said is real important, Scott, and that is that procurement is very good at negotiating. They're going to make you feel like you're going to come hat in hand and hopefully keep this deal or get this sale, and you're lucky to get us, and all those things to make you feel that your product isn't really valuable. And they are more than happy to buy a great product with great service at a cheaper price. Even if they were going to buy it anyway. Haven't you done that, Scott?
Oh, yeah.
You've gone into negotiations like, I'm going to buy this anyway, but if they'll take half the price off or 10% off, I'm just as happy to buy it cheaper.
And sometimes it's just with one technique. If I just flinch at something, they end up taking 10% off.
My favorite one is, you got to do better than that. Oh, really?
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one question and they'll drop 10% off the price, and then we'll work on that. So don't let yourself get cheated because you're not sure of yourself. Have that confidence to know what's going on in the marketplace and know where your value proposition resides. Sometimes that cheaper vendor, as you said, they're just clearing out the warehouse and they can't provide that price long-term, or they can't provide the product long-term. So watch what's going on in the marketplace, know about what's going on in your industry, and you can be more confident in your price. So Scott, I've got a resource for this because we talked about value proposition. One of my 2-minute selling tips called Change the Value Proposition. It's probably 3 minutes long, but I call it 2 minutes. And so that's something that they can take a look at, and it is on our website at winningitselling.com. This segment of the Winning at Selling podcast is brought to you by The Art of Prospecting, your guide to getting in the door by Steve Kloida. Steve Kloida was known internationally for increasing salespeople's ability to make solid appointments with qualified prospects. You too can learn this essential skill by ordering a copy of his superb book, The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Getting in the Door. In this book, Steve shares the top strategies and tactics he has developed, implemented, and personally tested with more than 1 million sales and prospecting calls. You can get his book on the website, theprospectingexpert.com. In addition, check out his other great online resources. Instant Sales Coaching, which will guide you through 5 online success modules. A guided prospecting process entitled Call Reluctance Transformer. And the Magnetic Selling Strategies Workbook, a detailed, step-by-step guide to increasing your sales. Get any of these valuable resources at theprospectingexpert.com.
So our golden nugget today is a quote from Goethe. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. And I think that there's a lot of people that know, but don't do.
Yep. I heard somebody call them good attitude bums.
Yeah.
They read all the books. They know all the sayings. They can quote Goethe, and they don't do anything. So
they got to have confidence to apply the content.
That's right. That's right. Don't just get locked in your office. Go out and do something.
I had one person that I was working with the other day. They said, when we work together, it seems like you concentrate more on the application than just the advice. I go, well, my goal is for you to apply the content, and I need to be able to give you the confidence to apply the content. If you don't have the confidence to apply the content, nothing is going to change. You need to do it.
That's what I tell people. I'm a trainer. I'm not an educator.
Right.
I'm not here for you to know what to do. I'm here for you to do the right thing. And if I haven't changed your behavior, we haven't gotten anywhere. So you can just read a book and know more.
And translating that to the role of salespeople need to educate to influence, not educate to teach. When you're educating a prospect, you're giving them content that's influential of them making an affirmative buying decision from you today.
Right.
That's the goal.
Excellent. So you can find all this information in the show notes at winningatselling.com. You can go back to all of our previous podcasts. So look for it at winningatselling.com.
And next week, we're going to talk about chapter 15, the last chapter in the book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. More years of life and more life in your years. So that'll be the final chapter. And our topic is going to be talking about how to determine sales compensation. So it could be an interesting conversation, folks.
Excellent. So if you have a question about sales compensation, send it to us in the next week. We'll get it into the show. We always welcome your questions. Go out and get better, one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.